everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. Very excited to be here with you today. And guess what? I am not in New York City right now. I am in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm here because my daughter, Carrie, just graduated from college. We are so excited. Can't believe that the time has zipped by as quickly as it has. But we are here. We got to have the full experience of a gigantic graduation. Uh, Her school has, I think, 50,000 students if you include the professional schools along with the undergraduate program, and I should say programs because it's across many different disciplines. Uh, the graduation was held in the stadium at her school, and there were almost there were about 8,000 graduates. Yes, Seiko, yes. Look. So for those of you who can see this, these are pictures from the graduation. Look at this. And for those who can't, I'll describe it to you. There were about 8,000 students who graduated. And so they filled up the field with as many of those 8,000 as they could. And then there was overflow in the bleachers where the families were. Uh, Almost 8,000. I mean, it was a sea. So the colors are red and white. She went to University of Wisconsin-Madison. And it's a sea of red and white uh, colors because they have those colors on their caps and gowns. And then I think that there were about 40,000 family members in the stadium. It was kind of unbelievable. Truly an international group of people coming together. You could see 3 and 4 generations of family members, people, depending upon where they were from, wearing the traditional raiment of their countries. And and then even with the students, depending upon what school they were graduating from, they had different banners that they wore. It was magnificent to see. And David Patterson, the author, was the keynote speaker. He was both funny and inspiring, and really pointed out to them the possibility of anything if you put your mind to it. In his case, I wonder if you all know this story. I surely did not know. He started out, he's of very meager means. He described his upbringing as lower middle class, and uh, he worked. He was an English major like myself. He worked in the advertising field for a big company. I don't even know whether it still exists, but at the time it was a very large company called J. Walter Thompson. Some of you may have heard of it. And he rose from a junior position to CEO of this company, J. Walter Thompson. So just imagine that over the course of, I think, 20 years, he went from entry level to CEO. But he always wanted to be a writer. He was always writing. He actually said that one of his professors said, "Yeah, you might be a writer, but don't try fiction. You won't be good at that." He has sold more than 475 million books over the course of his career as an author. And how he became a full-time author, he said, was one day he was stuck in traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike. And for anyone who's ever been on the New Jersey Turnpike, you know that can be an exercise in frustration. He was headed to a meeting. He was running late. And he said, this doesn't have to be my life. This isn't what I want it to be. Meanwhile, he's CEO of a major advertising company for whom he had built come up with and developed and pushed out some of the biggest ad campaigns of his time. But it wasn't what he wanted to do anymore. He left his job, and dozens and dozens of New York Times best-selling novels later, he stands before these students, these graduates, to say, basically like Jesse Jackson. Well, no, this one is Obama. Yes, you can. It was so incredibly inspiring. And his point was, you can do it. You can do it if you go for it. If you decide that this is what you want to do, then you can do it. And here's my baby for those of you who can see going for it. This is Carrie. She was delighted to graduate, to realize the dream that she had to go to this particular school, to be a psych major, to be fully immersed in the community and culture of her of this environment, which was so different from the New York City environment that she grew up in. And she is our living testament that when you go for it, great things can happen. And I wanted to share that today because, well, obviously, proud mama, to be able to share that this wonderful pivot point has occurred for her and for our family, but also to say for you, when you go for it and you don't give up, you put in the effort, you don't stop when things get hard, you keep moving, great things can happen. This is what David Patterson was talking about. He's like, yeah, especially in the beginning, you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do. You may have a sense, and some of us are fortunate to have a sense of the direction that we want to head in. But even when you have that sense, that doesn't mean that the path is just laid out and it's going to be easy for you to move forward. Easy happens sometimes, but that's not really what life is about. Life is about, putting your stake in the ground and going for it. Go for it. What do you want? What do you want in your life now? So this is my child going for it at 22. She's on the launch pad. She's done this step of the work and moving into the next stage of her life. Many people who tune into Dreamleapers are at different stages. Many of us are in transition from one job to the next, one life experience to the next, one relationship to the next, whatever it might be. I tend to attract people who are in transition and who want more for their lives. And I'm excited for that because, hey, we're all at different points, at different stages in transition. Whether we want to be or not, things happen. Last year to this year, something is different. I mean, really, for all of us, something is different from last year to this year. But also, sometimes it's a big pivot point. Something big has changed, and what do we do with that? And this is where this notion, James Patterson had it. This is what I witnessed with these thousands and thousands of young people, young and not so young, graduates of all ages, in that huge stadium saying, we're going to go for it. We believe in ourselves. We believe that we are worth the time, effort, focus, like they say, blood, sweat, and tears, whatever it takes to get to the next level. That energy, that energy of cheerleading ourselves is so important. And I think about the days when leading up to graduation, right after winter break, Carrie told me that she had 42 assignments to complete before the end of the school year. And I mean, that was December. This is May. That's a bit of time, but not that long. 42 assignments. She had a ton of credits and she was cranking it out. I teach at FIT, and I've talked to some of the students who are seniors there who are in my class who are telling me, yes, I see the finish line, but there's so much between me and the finish line. Wow, how am I going to get there? That is real. What? Yes, we see. The goal is right there. But what will it take to get there? What does it take to get to the finish line? What does it take to be able to walk with that degree in your hand? What does it take to be able to claim success, claim accomplishment for something that you worked on for so long? And truly, it means that you keep going for it no matter what. When you feel like there's so much to do, that, oh my goodness, how am I possibly going to get it all done and get it all done in time? You keep going for it. You don't give up. When you don't do well on something and you have to do it again, when you feel like, when you feel defeated, that you didn't get what you wanted to get. I talked to one of the students who said that she had applied for an internship that sounded perfect for her area of interest, and she didn't get it. And she was a bit disappointed, probably a lot disappointed. She didn't give up. She's graduating. And what she did was say, okay, that door closed. Where's the next door that I can even find to figure out how to open it? What can I do in order to fulfill my dreams? And now, especially today, when, and maybe this is always true, at the point of graduation for students, when the world becomes their oyster, so to speak, we often have said, oh, the economy has shrunk. Things are tough. It's harder for them than it was previous generations. Is that true? I'm not sure about that. I have been alive long enough to hear this same sentiment every time I hear about people graduating from college or having a transition point and about to do whatever next is. And so maybe it's just the feeling that it must have been better for people before me. Now it's really tough. Whatever your feeling is, just accept that we are where we are today. And there are always going to be people who will figure out how to be successful no matter what. And to embrace that and recognize that it is possible to succeed even when it doesn't look like success is around you. It's possible to be triumphant even if you start with meager means. Think about James Patterson. He said that he grew up in a family that had very little money. He and his wife, he told us that they have donated more than $240 million to charity, to educational institutions, etc. $240 million from this couple. And sometimes when we hear these stories from celebrities, we're like, oh, they're rich, they're different from us. He didn't start out rich. He did not start out rich. He did not start out with, as far as what I heard, so I didn't do my research on him, but he seemed pretty candid. He didn't start out with an uncle who could hook him up in one way or another, with, a father who had $1 million that can clunk it into his bank account. None of that. He grew up very modestly and figured it out based upon his talent and his unwillingness to give up. He was not ever going to give up, even today. And so that's what I want us to think about. What does it mean to go for it no matter what? I'm looking just to see, some folks have written in, Fee, oh, incredible, incredible. I'm sure you two are so very proud of Carrie. We are. And I see some claps from Patrick. Thank you, everybody, for your acknowledgments of my child as she's moving into this next phase. And I want to say congratulations to all of you, because this is graduation season. I know you have children, grands, nieces, nephews, loved ones who are in this point of transition. Maybe even you are in this point of transition. And if so, congratulations. I want to go to the quote that I selected for today, was to just take a look at, how we can consider this concept of go for it. Do we have that, Fallon? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Let's see. All right, I'm going to look, because I send it to Fallon, but sometimes Let's see if you don't see it, Val, I'm going to just keep on moving. It is the point of it is to never give up. No matter what, do not give up. Make sure that when you are when you're in those tender moments, because that's really what we talk about here on inspiration. When you're in those tender moments, then what can you do? And if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. And Fallon, if you can find who that quote was from, I know it was in that little screen grab. But let me say this to you again. Everybody, listen carefully. This is the point of Go For It, of our message for this week. If you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. This is from Nora Roberts, who is another very well known creator. So think about this. Let's break it down. If you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. I remember, but so I'm going to break this down and I'll tell you this one story. My dear protege, Elaine Welteroth, who many of you may know, I gave her first job, and she very graciously tells the whole world that that is true. And what happened? She had been looking for an internship. She graduated from college and was looking for an internship in magazines. And she had written to me, called me. I, at the time, still had my business, but I was helping to run Ebony magazine at the time. I was a creative director then. And I didn't know that she had been trying to contact me. At the same time, she contacted my former job, Essence Magazine, to see if there was an internship there. By the time she and I connected, she had already talked to Essence, and they had offered her an internship in the in the lane that was business writing. When I met with her and realized how dynamic she was, I offered her. We didn't even have internships. I got Ebony to create an internship for her. And she wanted to do beauty. That's what she told me. And I said, well, you can do beauty, because at the time we were rebuilding Ebony and it didn't have much infrastructure. Definitely not in the space of beauty. So I said, yeah, you could do it. I've worked in fashion and beauty before. I can help you build that out. And then she said, but I just was offered this internship at Essence. I think I should take it. Now, context, Ebony, the oldest Black magazine that was still in print at the time, and Essence, the most prestigious Black female magazine probably in the world. Where should she go? And I had worked at both places. And of course, I wanted her because I could tell she was a star in the making. But when she told me what the job was, it was in business writing. I'm like, writing about women in business. I said, is that what you want to do? That's not what you told me. And she said, no. I said, well, did you tell them that you wanted to do beauty? And she said, no. She was a little nervous to tell them because it's Essence and they offered her something. So let me just take what they offered. And I remember saying to her, if you don't tell them what you want, you'll never get it. And that's what this quote is saying. If you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. She told me what she wanted. She came to me. She ended up building out the beauty department, went from Ebony to Glamour in the beauty department, went from Glamour to Teen Vogue in the beauty department, and ultimately became the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, becoming the youngest female editor-in-chief of a Condé Nast magazine. Why? Because she said it out loud. She said that that was what she was going to do. If you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. And I see another one of my proteges, Mr. Darryl, up here. Let me tell you, Darryl told me Daryl reminded me recently that it's 15 years that he's been working with me. 15 years ago or so, when we met and I was looking for an assistant, he came to the interview and I said, I always ask, what do you want to do with your life? Not necessarily this job, but what do you want to do with your life? And he told me he wanted to finish college because he hadn't finished and he wanted to be a photographer. And I said, okay, so you have to go for it. The same point. Yes, come and work with me, but don't give up on your dreams. While he was working with me, and he was, I think 40 or close to 40 at the time. I'm not sure. I don't know how old people are, but he was not a 22-year-old. He went back to school. He got his associates. He went back to school. He got his bachelor's. He went back to school and got his master's. And guess what? He's a photographer. You can do it if you never give up. If you don't claim what you want, you're not going to get it. If you claim it, imagine what can happen. Okay, I'm looking. Shelby J from Denmark. Hello, my dear. Oh, it's so good to hear from you. So let me tell you about her. Now, Shelby's going to come on to my other Dreamleapers show, which is on Saturdays. It's an interview show. But let me tell you a little bit about Miss Shelby J. I met her because she was part of Prince's band. Yes, Prince, the Prince. And she is a powerhouse singer, performer, artist, creator. And I spent a year traveling with Prince and the Welcome to America tour. And what I remember many things about Shelby J, but the discipline that she had to cultivate her craft, to honor her body, to honor her voice, because Prince was amazing. He would go give these incredible productions, performances, real music. What was it, Shelby J? Real music for real artists. If you remember what that comment was, I want you to tell me because I can't remember. He would say it all the time. Just don't remember right this second. But it was all people at the top level. That is who he was singing, performing to, and who was working with him. And every person who was part of his team had to be of a certain quality, period. And he taught everyone that to go for it meant to be precise. Real music by real musicians. Yes. So real music by real musicians, that meant a lot back then because there were a lot of people using technology to enhance, to change, to do whatever. And he wasn't doing that. He was playing every instrument he could play and telling everyone on his team, you have to be excellent. You have to be your best. I went to several rehearsals and watched the precision with which they worked to ensure that they were excellent at what they did. And I bring that to you to say, do not ever give up. As Nora Roberts says, if you don't go after what you want, you'll never get it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Think about that. You slammed the door shut before you even saw the door. You slammed the door shut before it was ever open. What if you stop doing that? How we do that is to say, oh, it's not for me, it's for somebody else. Oh, that person's more prepared. That person's smarter. That person's better. That person has more money. Whatever it is, how many ways do we shut ourselves down? How many ways do we diminish who we are and close that door? Never ask the question. Therefore, we got a no before we even asked. If you don't step forward, you'll always be in the same place. That one is such a good one. I want you to think about this for a minute. How many times have you said, I'm going to do X? This is so important to me. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to accomplish this. If it's a New Year's resolution time, this year I'm going to do X. And then the year comes and goes and nothing happened. If you tell yourself the truth, most of us have something that we said we were going to do that we did not keep our eye on the ball. We did not do it. We just didn't. We forgot. We got distracted. We had something else that seemed to be more important. The forgetting is one of the most painful ones. When you go, oh, yeah, I told myself I was going to do that. And then it didn't happen. Oh, I see. Who's this? Patrick says, age ain't nothing but a number. You better believe that's right. And then one can flourish with the right mindset. Yes, mindset is everything. Mindset, intention, commitment, go for it. When you go for it, what happens? I'm going to go back to Shelby J for a minute. When Prince died, think about it. In this case, he's the leader of a band. He has a lot of people who are on his payroll, a lot of people he took care of, who traveled with him all over the world. And then he's gone too soon. What happens to those people? And take it beyond Prince. What happens when the rug gets pulled out from under you? When you lose your job, when you lose a loved one, when you lose your health? What happens when something gets pulled away? What do you do? What do you do when things change dramatically? And, for some people, they just fall and kind of wither in the corner. For other people, it becomes an opportunity to grow, to shift, to thrive, to build your own thing. And I think of Shelby J because I remember, thank God we've stayed in touch over the years. Where she says she is right now? In Denmark. She is doing her thing. She's also a beekeeper. I love that. Like, what do you do in those moments of solitude in your private life that fill your spirit? So there's not just work. One of the things that James Patterson said, he said that I don't have the quote, and actually, if I find the quote, I'll use it here another time. But he basically said that there are a lot of things for us to consider in life that are important. And among them, he said, when you think about work, don't think about work as the most important thing. What about including in those buckets family, health, peace, community, and work? And when you realize that all of those things are important, not work as the most important thing, how do you live your life? What changes in your life if you consider that your family should be very much at the top of the list? The people you love should be higher up than work. Now, that is not the philosophy that we've been taught in this country in terms of how to get ahead. But I'm saying to you, what if you do think about it in that way? What if you do consider that to have a happy life, to have a balanced life, is to make all of those things important, not just one? And I struggle with that. I mean, I definitely was taught put work first. You strive for excellence, and excellence, really, work was at the top of that. So I'm not saying it isn't at the top, but that's not the only thing at the top. How can you be sure to make space for your physical being, your spiritual being, your connection to humanity? If you are just doing work, trust you are not going to be happy. And then what happens? Not good things. And so I can't even believe we've been on fire this morning, wherever you are, whatever time it is at this moment. And our time is coming to an end for this week. But I just want to thank you for taking this in. Go for it. You are worth it. Your loved ones want you to be your best. When you do your best, it rubs off on other people. It really does. And I also want to make sure that you know that every Saturday I have another broadcast called Dreamleapers where I interview people who are manifesting their dreams. And Natalie Fallon, can you remind me who's coming up this Saturday? I realized I should have had that tip of my tongue, but I don't remember. We've been so fortunate to interview a lot of wonderful, wonderful people. And we are every week talking to someone who takes us into the experience of their story, their life. I think that it's my friend, Dr. Lejeune Terry Cornish. I believe that it is she. She is the president of what is my girls' college? Why am I blanking? You know what? I'm just so full. Okay, help me. Help me. What is this? Why am I Ithaca College? I just had a brain fart. My dear friend Lejeune Terry Cornish is the president of Ithaca College. We are both from Baltimore. I watched her grow her career. Um, she's just been a force in the space of education for a long time. And I wanted to talk to her at this point when students are graduating, moving on to next. What does education mean? How can it impact all of us and how she's built her career? So tune in on Saturday. This Saturday, it's on WBAI Radio at 11 a.m. Eastern and streaming through all my platforms as well as my website at 5 p.m. Eastern. We've gone over a little bit, but oh man, it's so good. And Shelby J, you are coming onto our show. We want you to come soon because it's about to be Black History Month, Black Music Month, and we want to get you in right there. So my people are going to follow up with you right away. Thank you for always inspiring me and so many others and for tuning in from Denmark. And thank you to all of you for tuning in today. Let me bring up a picture of my baby one more time. My daughter, Carrie, who just graduated from college, she is living her best life and pursuing her dreams. And I hope that learning a little bit about her will inspire all of you. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.